The engines have come to life here, and we've talked about how the sun has been shining on this place all day long. Well, it has gone behind the clouds, and it has gotten a little bit breezy outside here as we race into the afternoon at Charlotte Motor Speedway. You can see the NKA flags on the backstretch flapping in the wind, and all around the paddock. Everyone is keeping a keen eye on what this track will do and what to set their karts for, as this race result will set the lineup for the main event. What you've done in the heats just lines you up for here. It scored you some good championship points, but the results from this session will set our starting lineup for the mains. Out of the final turn, they'll get ready to go. David Goldman has dominated the day so far, but Ryan Kastner kept him honest there and led a couple laps in heat number 2. John Bonanno and Anthony Stifler on the second row. Tyler Prestel rounds your top 5, and the rest of the 18 KA Masters are ready for action here at Charlotte. And here we go, green flag in the air. Goldman with a good jump. Kastner sending it around the outside as the 217 of Tyler Prestel got in a bit hot and kind of slid into the side pod of Austin Queen, who allowed Paul Montepoli to get through. So single file now to the bus stop, and it is our pole man who has won every session so far, David Goldman, with a 4-car gap down the back straightaway.
Good start this time by our champion, John Bonanno, and there's another move further back. It's Montepoli, side by side, and one driver goes off. That's the 217 who goes off the racetrack. That's Tyler Prestel, who found himself with a tire in the gravel there, unfortunately. Able to continue going, but not going to help his charge further up the field. John Bonanno now on the rear bumper of Ryan Kastner and David Goldman for the lead of this race.
Yeah, Prestel now under pressure from Scott Carapalati, as Ryan Kastner gets a good end to that first lap to close the margin back up to your race leader. A longer distance here for the KA Masters in this pre-final than, of course, what they ran in those heat races as they head through the bus stop and onto the backstretch. Goldman by about a car length back to Ryan Kastner and Bonanno. Anthony Stifler 4 car lengths away here with 11 minutes plus 2 laps the distance here for the KA Masters. Here comes Ryan Kastner looking. Well, for a moment, he was looking to go to the inside. Ultimately, he thought better of it and tucked back in. Now, again, just another fade down low. Constantly, sometimes, I don't know if a lot of drivers do this, but I've heard it here and there that you'll pull out a line and not make the move, but just to throw the guy in front of you off where he hears the engine sound only on one ear, only on one side. Because obviously when you're straight squared behind him, he'll hear it in the left and the right ear. But if he hears it on the inside ear, he might just tweak out for a second, blow the corner, open the door, and make a mistake. So maybe that's a little bit of that extra veteran expertise coming in for Ryan Kastner. I think more than anything, though, he's just kind of trying to pick his moments and maybe not give a shove to the race leader as Bonanno stays shoving him forward here in third.
Yeah, Bonanno trying to push him through. But, I mean, Xander, and that kind of confused me a little bit because you wouldn't know, oh, there goes Kastner on the inside into the double right-hander. I mean, half moves around this place, we have seen that you lose a lot of time when you do them as Goldman goes back. So, I mean, I wouldn't be sure if that would be probably the best strategy around here. There goes Kastner again. They go side by side in a turn number 1, and Goldman able to retake the lead here. So a lot of fighting, like you said. Kastner keeping Goldman honest, has been a sweep, but hasn't led every single lap this weekend. Kastner has led a handful of laps as well, and for the first time, John Bonanno really closer than he's been all weekend long to the top 2 here at the moment.
Well, the reason that he can do that is he's got Bonanno right behind him. Any mistake that Kastner makes, he's got a nice little shove coming out of the corner. Although no mistake needed there, a clean pass, and this time it sticks. New leader, Ryan Kastner. David Goldman back to second, but that's why he was able to do that in the opening couple laps, because John Bonanno was right there. The moment Kastner had a little hiccup, he'd push him right back up to Goldman. Now through turns 1 and 2, Kastner leads. Goldman a little bit wide there in the first 2 corners, and just in the couple of back and forths they've had, Anthony Stifler got some new life and closed the gap a little bit back into frame. So this 3-car trio, they have been the story of the day, it feels like. Stifler close. Montepoli was in the mix at the beginning of Heat 2, then had a mistake and went wide, and he's been kind of recovering from that since. Bonanno, wow, he tried to get on the inside, and he's on top of him. John Bonanno, a late move there. I don't know if it was overly late, but he wasn't far enough inside for Goldman to want to concede the corner, and then he tried to lock the brakes up to stay off him as Goldman made that second apex. That's that awkward point of contact where he was tire to bumper, and the tires, they act like a Hot Wheels slingshot, just ramps you up and over. And a great save by John Bonanno. Not even a scratch on that blue and yellow comp card. It still looks perfect, but they definitely cost themselves a lot of time. 1.5 seconds now to Ryan Castner, and you saw Goldman checking his left rear tire there. Wanted to make sure it didn't get punctured in the contact, which is very rare, but I have seen it happen in a handful of cases.
Yeah, no, for sure. Goldman just making sure the kart's all right, and he can continue here. It looked like for a second Stifler was closing down the gap, but he's now made company with Paul Montepoli here at the moment. And I bet Ryan Castner looked over his shoulder, he's like, where is everyone? And probably doesn't even know what happened as of yet. So for David Goldman and company, John Bonanno, like you said, no scratch on that go-kart. He just had the fastest lap of the race, a 44.320 for John Bonanno with the number 1 plate, showing that you can go up and behind the rear bumper of a fellow racing driver, and you can still go on to set a purple lap time.
There you saw David Goldman tap his helmet and point forward towards the race leader, Ryan Castner. Not only did Bonanno go quickest overall, he was 0.2 better than Castner, and Goldman was still 1/10 better than Ryan Castner. So for John Bonanno and David Goldman, even if Bonanno is a little quicker, if they stay in line, they should have just enough time to get back to the race leader, and Goldman can try and complete the full day sweep from Heat 1 all the way through to the pre-final. You mentioned Stifler was close, then faded back. Paul Montepoli was on his bumper last time around, then faded a couple tenths away himself. He's just kind of following there. Behind the two of them is Austin Queen. We saw Queen get shoveled way to the outside on that start, on that black and red QG3 karting PSL Beryl Art. And Austin Queen there in the 6th position has Tyler Prestel kind of riding along with them as they try to catch these two here through turns 10 and 11. But this is the biggest gap, I think, in raw speed, because we're right around where we get towards the end of a heat race at this point time-wise. And still, I mean, I don't think that they were anywhere close to this spread apart, and there hasn't been really that much passing. In fact, there's basically been no passing from 4th on back since the drop of the green. So if anything, we should have a closer field, but Ryan Castner, David Goldman, John Bonanno, they are consistently 2 to 3 tenths better than anyone else on the circuit.
Yeah, Xander, I mean, you've been in the seat, right, recently. Whenever you get to this stage of the race, whenever you have done a lot of heat cycles, 4 heat cycles at this point, what are these tires experiencing when it comes to tires, right, with this new compound?
Well, your braking points have to change, right? As the day goes on, even if there's more grip going down, you just don't have the grip in the rubber to go in as hard as you were at the beginning. So you're having to brake a little bit earlier and adjust that. Maybe put throttle a little bit early, or a little bit later in the corner as well, and just do everything you can not to slide the tires. It's kind of like, you know, as you have less and less life of them, they can overheat easier and easier and easier off of just one 4-wheel slide. And they obviously were sliding quite a bit when Bonanno and Goldman were side by side, but further back in the field, you start to see the gaps really open up on tire wear alone of who took care of their tires and who didn't, because sometimes the guys that are not as fast, maybe only a tenth or two off, they're actually driving over the limit versus under the limit. You'd think by the time that they're crossing the line, they're driving slower in the turns. They're driving slower into the corner than the race leader. But in many cases, it's the opposite. They're actually driving it a bit too hard, not getting as much speed coming out, and so they're working their tires more than, say, the guys up front that are right on the limit. And also just experience as well, knowing how to drive on the tires at the different life levels. Only 4 practices. Most drivers probably went new tires at some point in the middle of Friday. So we're in uncharted territory for basically everybody in the semi-pro categories at this point. With only 4 7-minute sessions, we've now done 1 7-minute qualifying session, and then an 8-minute plus 2 lap heat, and 8-minute plus 2 lap heat, and now this pre-final, that's 12 minutes plus 2 laps. So this is more laps for sure than anyone's done if they went new tires at the first session Friday, but I think a lot of guys probably went new in the middle of the day. Some might have gone even 2 sets. So maybe as well, just not knowing how to drive or how to have their kart set up to their liking on this final heat cycle on the tires right now could be the difference of why the top 3 are pulling to a 4-second margin back from Anthony Stifler and Paul Montepoli without that middle group battling and with the leaders still battling at times. And again, speaking of battling, as we've been storytelling here, they have been setting the stage for us. David Goldman was close enough for a look last time. Let's see if he tries this time. Turn 10. No, not close enough. Half a car back. He's going to wait a little longer. He still has plenty of minutes on that clock. And that's one thing that's really nice about the Stars Championship Series, utilizing that Track Systems North America timing system, is that every driver knows exactly where they are in the race. You have the onboard Micron data gauges as Goldman now goes to the lead. You can do the lap count there. You can see a lap counter, but if you do a waved off start, and it's you may not notice it as well when you're in the heat of the moment. It's small on the screen, right? So you're not necessarily paying super close attention to what lap you are on and how many to go. Here, it's bright, it's flashing, it's right in front of your eyes every time you pass the finish line. How many minutes are left? How many minutes are left? And then eventually the 2 to go signal comes out. So with 2.5 minutes to go, you're seeing Ryan Kastner go back in on Goldman because he knows at this point in the race, if Goldman tracked him down and he had a big lead, he cannot let him get away. He won't have time for Goldman to fall back off. We're in the last few moments of this one, maybe 5, maybe 6 laps left. And Kastner looked in 10, didn't go, but tapped his helmet again to Bonanno, saying, I'm not giving up yet. I'm going to get around this guy.
Yeah, Kastner definitely closing off to the rear bumper of David Goldman, not letting David Goldman get away here at the moment. Still very close for Ryan Kastner. And I mean, longest they've gone all weekend long, like we said, Xander. And also, they're starting to feel the G-forces a little bit more on their ribs, on their hips as well. They're going to start feeling a little more on their neck and in their forearms and all the way through their shoulders. It's a very high-speed track. Whenever you have to, muscle the cart into the corner, like the sweeping left-hander in turn number 8 is, it's just holding onto the cart, making sure it goes through. So they're definitely starting to feel the effects that the racetrack is having on them here at the moment.
Yeah, and now down the front stretch, who's got the stamina to go all the way? And after a long day of working on these karts, a lot of the Masters drivers are doing their own wrenching or at least helping out if they do have someone working as a mechanic. So I'm sure a long day like this, they're just hoping to get to the end of it. For some, like the Carapalati brothers, who roll up with a minivan and a short trailer, and the 2 brothers, Scott and Kim, they do all their own work. It's just a driver and mechanic all in one operation for the 2 of them. And they're right now, unfortunately, Scott with a rough run as he's DNF'd, but with Ken Simonellic. But for Kim, he's still in the top 10 right now. Down to turn number 14. This time by less than a minute to go. Goldman a little slide on the exit, but Kastner didn't get as good of a run as he would have needed to capitalize here in turn 1. I'm mistaken. There it is. Kastner through for the lead.
Yeah, Ryan Kastner had a good run there on the exit of the double right-hander, turns number 13 and 14. Got the run on the main straight and was able to get the move done there on David Goldman, who falls back to second. So for the Philly native, making his Stars Championship Series debut here this weekend, has been impressive already, but looking to put it on the pole position when it comes down to the main event tomorrow here. Has to get it done in this pre-final. Is going to have help from John Bonanno behind, but just thought better of it into the hairpin here. And going to have to stay behind Ryan Kastner, who has kept them honest all weekend long here. The 2 of them continue to jockey for position. John Bonanno, the champion, hasn't led a lap so far this weekend. It's been the 2 in front of him who have led almost all weekend long, and they continue to go at it. 3 laps to go as the time dwindles down. The time is just gone to 0, so they're going to have 2 laps to go when they cross the stripe.
Yeah, 2 laps left when we get back around, so 2.5 as they stand. Kastner, Goldman, John Bonanno has spent the entire day, it feels like, just watching these 2 up close. But he has only made 1 attempt to get by either one of them, and it cost them a lot of time. So whether he's lacking that last little bit to really fight, or if he's still just keeping an eye on where they are and trying not to give away where his strengths may be. Into the final turn, check this out. What a great side-by-side view as Goldman takes back the lead, coming to 2 to go.
Yeah, Goldman back to the point of the field here. 2 laps to go. John Bonanno going to look to push Kastner through. Just not close enough. Goldman with the over-under move goes back to the point of the field. Kastner looking to go back on him side by side in between the 2 of them in the chicane. And John Bonanno still there in third, like you said. Hasn't been able to get a move done on either of these 2 drivers. The time where he did try was on up and on the rear bumper of David Goldman. But this time, 2 laps to go, and not close enough for John Bonanno. David Goldman still leads. Kastner in second. Looked for the move, was side by side with Goldman, but just can't get the move done as of yet on Goldman. Down the inside into the double right. Able to get clear this time by for Kastner, and David Goldman falls back to second.
Yeah, Bonanno tried to go with him again, just couldn't quite do it. David Goldman did a fantastic job of closing the door. Kastner even dropped a tire there coming on the front stretch. He'll have dirt on the left side tires here in turn 1. Watch that comp car probably slide a little bit through the corner, but he did a good job managing it. David Goldman, can you get back around Kastner here with the white flag waving? You know Ryan's probably going to defend that position. Goldman is all over him here in the bus stop as they head out of turn 7 and down the backstretch for the last time.
And this is going to be the best chance for John Bonanno to try and do an over-under move on both these drivers. Not close enough, but Goldman going to look to get it done side by side up the hill into the hairpin. Kasner still going defensive, holding off Goldman. Can he get the over-under move done on the exit? Not close enough as of yet for Goldman.
Final time, final corner. Goldman finds a hole down low on Ryan Kasner. Kasner on the outside still has the momentum. Bonanno nowhere to go. Who does he push to the line? He'll give a shove to Goldman, and it's just not enough. 1,000th of a second. Ryan Kasner survives from David Goldman, and a fist bump there to John Bonanno. He said, thanks for the push. And there, Ryan Kasner, David Goldman saying, hey, man, that was an awesome race. And that is one heck of a good sign to see. All the respect, in the world for these three drivers. And they put on a great show, one of the probably most entertaining slug matches that I've seen in KA Masters in quite some time, because there was every bit of this race. Hunting down the leader, passes for the lead, a little bit of carnage, but no crashing. All's fair in love and war, and no harm, no foul, really, when it came down to the end of it. Kasner, Goldman, Bonanno, you can't write it any closer. 700s for your top three. Tyler Prestel and Paul Montepoli as well, with a photo finish of their own, less than 400s apart for fourth. Anthony Stifler back in sixth. Austin Queen, Peter Cook, Chris McGinley, and Tim Carapalati rounding the top 10. There's Scott Carapalati standing in front there. Obviously, he's got to ride, unfortunately, the recovery vehicle back to pit lane. One pre-final in the books. A lot more racing is still in store here from Concord. Stick with us, folks. You're watching the Queen City Gambit at Charlotte Motor Speedway on Kart Chaser.